Hello and welcome to Testimony Time with me, Del Barefoot, on Revelation TV. And it's great to have you, the viewers, with us once again. My guest today knows what it is to hit rock bottom in life. His story will utterly amaze you, it will astound you and challenge you. How can you be set free from alcoholism? 75% of the prisoners in our prisons in this nation are there because of alcohol-related crime. 800,000 people a year are admitted to our NHS hospitals because of alcohol-related injury or illness. So what can be done about their addiction? You know, what hope is there? My guest, John Cartledge, who's with me today, was an alcoholic for 30 years. He's been set free for 20 years, and for the last 10 years he's been working as a missionary. So he should know something about it. Just how did he break free? Welcome, John, to the show. It's great to have you here with us today. Tell us about, first of all, your early years growing up in Warrington. You showed so much promise. You were a talented sportsman, and as a teenager you seemed to have a fantastic future ahead for you. You know, can you share some of those memories of those times?
Yeah, they were great memories, Del. My mother was an Irish lady from Knock in County Mayo. There was a pilgrimage in Knock where millions of Catholics visit each year. There was an apparition in the 19th century. So obviously I was brought up a Roman Catholic. I went through all the sacraments, the communion, confirmation, even married in the Catholic Church. And my recollections of my early years in Warrington was the community spirit was much better than today. You know, people, it was after the war years, and everybody had the doors open in the streets, and people would go in and steal in rations, and people would go and borrow a cup of sugar and cup of milk, that sort of thing. Everybody was in the same boat, as it were. Also, sin was much, today they tend to change the name of sin to illnesses and things like this, but in those days, you know, if a lady was maybe living with a man out of marriage, she would be an outcast. So the morals was much higher than today. Yeah. We used to play as a schoolboy. I was only interested in football, and we had full-scale football matches in the streets because there was no cars, hardly any cars. We used to use 2 grids as goalposts and one in the middle as the halfway line, and so that's all we did all the time.
You're obviously older than you look. And you were a talented footballer, weren't you?
Yeah, well, also we used to box as well at school, and boxing was allowed, the inter-school boxing and national schoolboy championship. But in about 1958 I joined the boxing club with about 1958-59 it was abolished in schools. It was banned. So to box you had to join a club, and I joined the Raven Boxing Club with my friend Ronnie Thurston and my brother Bernard, who's now a pastor, and later on my brother David, who was also now a pastor. Ronnie Thurston went on to win the Commonwealth Games silver medal in 1966, and I myself won the Lancashire schoolboy title, and David, my other brother, he won the North West Counties championships. But football was my game.
And you were on trial for Manchester City. I don't know if I get this right, not Man United, Man City.
Yeah. I was above average football, but I wasn't dedicated. I wasn't as dedicated as you should be to make the grade. I went to Man City when I was about 18, and I just started socialising in the pubs. And I was in a nightclub the night before I went to my first trial. But I went through that okay, but there was no interest over there. There were other clubs interested as well, but I always thought I was better than anybody else, and that I would make the grade in my own time, not theirs, you know.
Now, I read that eventually you came to work in your father's family business, and indirectly that led to your drinking. How did that happen?
It led to me heavy drinking. I was already drinking, socialising, and as my future couldn't have looked any better at that time. all of my friends were sportsmen, rugby league players, footballers, boxers, as I've already mentioned. I had a good job with my father, his own little business, and I had a beautiful girlfriend, Jennifer, who later married. My father was like one of those Arthur Daly types. The business was selling and buying, selling and buying things that we could sell on the market. So a lot of our business was done in pubs at lunchtime, and that's where my heavy drinking started. And during my father's, working for my father, it was easy to have a good drink and have a day off when you worked for your father. You wasn't likely to get sacked, just for having a couple of days off. But that's where my heavy drinking started.
Now you say, John, that your drinking progressed gradually, perhaps imperceptibly, until you were drinking copious amounts of alcohol. Just what kind of amounts were you consuming back then?
Well, once I started, when I was working for my father, we was using the pubs in the lunch times, and I started to get anxious when I was in the mornings, and not relating it to drinking. I just thought it was like bad nerves. I was subscribed Valium, but when before I actually admitted I was an alcoholic and I was working, I was able to work and drink. There was days when we could drink 30 pints or more,
So your tolerance was very, very high?
Then, yeah. It was very high then, the tolerance, and you could go the next day and work, but I'd be anxious.
Yes, you get the shakes, would you, as well?
I couldn't wait till 11 o'clock, sort of sneak up to the pub and just get a couple of pints. But again, I didn't relate it to... An alcoholic to me was somebody sat on a park bench.
In a gutter.
Yeah.
It was a vicious cycle by the sound of it. So the more anxious you got, the more you drank, and the more you drank, the more anxious you got. And then on top of that, you were actually taking prescribed pills. You were taking Valium as well. So, my goodness, your bloodstream was really suffering, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
So how did the heavy drinking, John, affect your life? How did it affect your relationships, your marriage to Jennifer, your work? What was the spin-off from that drinking?
Well, as I've mentioned, with the work, as long as it was my father, I got away with it, But my wife, Jennifer, you don't want to admit to them that you've got a problem.
Exactly.
Because you like doing what you was doing. I'd tell lies. I've got a meeting in the pub to see a man about some business, but it was just to get a drink. There was no man there. And I'd start hiding bottles in the dirty washing basket outside, and all this, and that's how it went on for years,
Yeah, you got very creative and very inventive in the way that you concealed the drinking in one way or another.
The relationships with my friends, who were all decent sportsman type people that drank very moderately.
Yeah.
The wedding invitations and invitations to special events got less and less, because I was always half cut when I got to the wedding or whatever, and I'd be a nuisance. And
so you were becoming an embarrassment to them, really, weren't you?
I was an embarrassment to my wife. The police was once it was progressing more that I'd be fighting in pubs and wrecking the pubs, and I'd be getting arrested for, at first, all sorts of things like violence and stuff like this.
Yes.
That was before I was, I'd got to my rock bottom, as it were. And I had lots of fines, lots of probation, but never jail. I got maybe 2 or 3 suspended sentences before.
But you were sent to Strangeways prison in 1977. Now, I assume, from what you tell me, that you were there because you were trying to procure money, steal money, to feed the desperate need that you had for your next drink. Because by that time, you'd lost your work.
Well, well, my drinking at this time had progressed into the lowest depths of alcoholism. I was now, the more you drink, the more you want to drink with the same type of people to be comfortable.
Yes.
And I'd graduated, if that's the right word, to drinking on public park benches. 11 o'clock in the morning to have a drink was too late for me. I had to have one as soon as I opened my eyes. Before I could have a wash or a shave, I needed 2 bottles of wine or strong cider as early as 5 o'clock in the morning. You knew where to go to get the drink. At that time, though, the pub was only open 11 till 3 and 5:30 till 11. But you knew where to go. You knew where the off licences was, who'd serve you. So every day we on the public park benches, it wasn't a fleeting experience. This was to last for many years. Or other convenient places to drink when it was raining. And every day the only topic of conversation was where to get the money for the next drink, what we're going to steal, where he's going to steal it from, shoplifting every day. And again talking about who was in court that day or who was going to jail yesterday, who was up in court today. And that was the only topic of conversation.
So it consumes your entire life, your whole thought life is focused on where can I get the next drink, how much can I drink, how am I going to access
your
it?
Only thought is you develop a tolerance. Your brain has been exposed to alcohol that much that it's adapted itself accordingly and will only operate properly in the function properly in the presence of alcohol.
Yes.
So when that alcohol level decreases, then you have to top up with more alcohol.
Did you have memory lapses though? Did you have whole periods of your life that you can't remember?
The DTs was the worst, when you're talking to curtains and as if the people, the delirium tremens. That comes when you've been off drink for a couple of days. It's like cold turkey, So that when I went to Strangeways, I had a suspended sentence at that time. I knew where I was going, and I went to Strangeways, and I was only in a couple of days, and I got my divorce papers from Jennifer, my wife.
She'd had enough.
Well, she'd had me for 10 years, and she was a darling, she was a wonderful woman. And it's very hard to get your divorce papers in prison because you can't do anything about it. You can't sort of go knocking on the door and say, come on, let's
talk about it.
So it's a very hard time, very hard.
Well, at last, a watershed moment arrives when you're sent to, or admitted to a mental hospital, and to use your own words, you were nearly dead. What happened?
Well, there was a lot more mental hospitals before that, Del. There was, I'd left Strangeways, I went in jail a few times after, went into Risley Remand Centre about 5 times, and Walton in Liverpool. It was ongoing. I mean, this was like 1977 when I first went in Strangeways. I just went on until 1991. And I'd been in mental hospitals and drug and alcohol dependency units many times. I couldn't count how many times I'd been in this.
So you'd attempted to beat it? You'd had attempted?
I couldn't, I didn't, there was countless times in this mental hospital. When I went in this time, I was nearly dead, and I was 46 years of age.